Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We were just live for like 5 straight hours, but we have our actual podcast to talk about day one of NHL Free Agency. I'm not going to say nothing happened today. There's a decent amount of stuff that happened today, but the market may be a little bit clogged with Nick Ehlers not yet signed. He said he's going to take his time holding up parts of the forward market at the very least. The Colorado Avalanche didn't really do much today. Internally, they extended Parker Kelly on a 4-year, $1.7 million per deal. I think we're all pretty fine with that, given that it's not very expensive. Not going to sweat too much about it. The only other move they made was signing some AHL defensive depth and Ronnie Attard. I don't know how to say his last name because it's me. I don't know how to say anybody's last name. That's it. So no real additions to the NHL roster for the Avs today. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the other moves that got made, but just initial impressions so far for the Avs.
Well, I'm going to answer Chuck first. You're not hallucinating. I had a different shirt on earlier. I just took a quick shower after the 4 or 5 hour stream we had, and then I'm going right to the airport right after this one. So to be at development camp live tomorrow. So that's it. It's a brand new showered guy with a new shirt. So you're not hallucinating. As far as the Avs are concerned, yeah, I mean, got a little depth for the American League, right? Obviously, they needed to do that. Took care of some RFA, not RFA, but to be UFA next year. Parker Kelly, right? Extension, which was a great deal of business. And again, I think everybody's just been saying that maybe a little bit of a log jam there on Ehlers. If the Avs are in on it, like it sounds like they might be in on it, or even if they're not, then they're on something else, but the Ehlers is holding up stuff. So I think that's what you're seeing right now. Other than that, yeah, some contracts around the league that, again, probably crazy, you know what I mean, that the Avs were not going to be in on. Obviously, Druin to the Islanders as related. Good job. Good, awesome for him. And Lindgren, right? People would have lost their brain if he was signed here for 4.5, I think. Even though I like him.
I mean, so there would have been a rant, thoughts. Man.
Yeah, I would have not been happy. Especially
there would have been
years.
I would have had a real problem with for the Josh Manson deal for Ryan Lindgren. He's not as good as Josh Manson, so I would have struggled, man. So I'm happy that Seattle did it because Seattle likes to make a mistake every July 1st.
They're easy to make. It turns out they're easy to make. So
good. Very true.
You can at least say that the Avs haven't made any mistakes yet today. Got that going for you in your bag.
Well, I mean, Parker Kelly at 4 years, $1.7 million. The $1.7 million with the cap blowing up the way that it is probably pretty small. But didn't we just watch Colorado make this mistake with Miles Wood a couple of years ago? There are a few differences. Yeah. Parker Kelly has center wing versatility. Parker Kelly is great in his own end and not good offensively. For a player in a checking role, that's what you want. That is more of the balance that the tendency that you're looking for out of a guy that is in your bottom six. He fit in very well with your team. When he played wing last year, he was much better than when he played at center. But you're still tying yourself to depth players. And you're talking about, I mean, Eric, when we were on our stream, Eric was mentioning that last season when the Avs traded for Mackenzie Blackwood, that he had said you can get a Nikolaj Kovalenko anywhere. The same is true of Parker Kelly. So signing him to a 4-year deal sort of feels unnecessary. And would that 4-year deal not have been available to them next summer? They needed to do this now. I know whining about the timing like that is always kind of hit or miss in terms of does this make sense to do, but it just seemed like an odd thing for it to be at the front of their business. And also just those are supposed to be some of the most cost efficient spots on your roster. And when you pay a guy like that, you lose that ability to kind of turn over the bottom 6 of your lineup on a regular basis. And do you not trust your pro scouting anymore? Like, what is the urgency to continue to lock down members of your bottom 6? Where's the Jack Drury extension? Is he not a priority? Are you going to give him another one for 4 years? Yeah, you're going to give him a 4-year extension too? And like it just seems like a little much for me. I'm not going to throw a chair over it. It's fine. 1.7 isn't killer. Like it's fine.
It's a couple things. First of all, Jack Drury is an RFA at the end of his deal, so not in a hurry to get that done. A little bit different, but
True.
I do think it's a little bit weird that the Avs are giving so much aggressive term at the bottom of their lineup. They did it with LOC too, and I get LOC is the mayor of Denver, and you want to keep him and all of that, but it is a little bit weird. I will say 4 years is a lot less than 6. If Miles Woods'
age too.
If Miles Woods' deal was 4 years,
the age was the point that I forgot to make there. He's much younger.
Yeah, even if Miles Woods' deal was just 4 years, at the end of it, you'd be dumping 2 years instead of 4 that the Avs ended up having to dump. It's still weird. It's still long. I just don't know that it matters that much. Like, if things go poorly and you end up having to bury it, it's on your books for $700K. Is that really that big of a deal? Maybe it matters, but it's not quite the same as Miles was 6 years and $2.5 million if it doesn't work out. It's also the only thing the Avs really did that meaningfully impacted their NHL roster in any way, which is not a lot. You kind of mentioned it. It feels like, and this is not exclusive to the Avs, but a lot of the forward market in this free agency is milling around waiting for the top to fall. Now, Granlund did end up signing 3x7 in San Jose, or in Anaheim, rather. Sorry. So that market piece did fall, but it seems like there's a lot of teams that might be in on this Ehlers thing. And then we're going to see a scramble of secondary options once Ehlers makes his decision.
Yeah, and again, that's why I was saying, listen, maybe they are in on it, or maybe they're not, and the secondary option is player X, right? I don't know, but that's why I would still go get a guy like Pelche. You know, I still believe that. I don't think Kiviranta is a realistic get, meaning I do believe he's going to get priced out, and then. You know what I mean? Then you'll be searching for stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like trying to patch up things. So go get him right now. Go get my guy Grizzly that I've been saying the whole time on the show there on the stream. Protect yourself that way, and then it doesn't stop you from doing anything else. And if you are in on Ehlers or if you are in on something else, then you're still there. Pelche will be 800 guy. I mean, that's what he's going to be at, right? It's just what it is, unless he's getting that somewhere else. And again, I would think he would want to come to the Avalanche. Again, what do I know? But I deal with that first, and I still in on the rest. And I feel better if I do get shut out. You know what I mean? So that's what I would do next.
Well, and you can see where that secondary winger market is kind of stopped up because of Ehlers, because Ehlers hasn't made a decision. Pius Suter hasn't made a decision. Now, Pius Suter can play center, so that might be, separate entirely. But Jack Roslovic, Victor Olofsson, Andrew Mangiapane, Anthony Beauvillier, those guys all might be landing with teams that are trying to sign Nikolaj Ehlers today. So that you can see where that market is kind of like running into that logjam there. There weren't that many really solid players to begin with. A lot of those guys have signed, but the wings especially are still sitting out there, and you're saying, okay, well, teams that want Ehlers and don't get him, then what? I also think that that's where the Avalanche come into play, because teams that want Ehlers and don't get him, hello, there's a very nice young man in Colorado named Martin Necas. If you so choose and want to pay a very heavy price, boom. He could be that fallback plan for some teams in Colorado. Instead of committing themselves to a bunch of things, they're hanging out right now. They're seeing what's going to happen with the Ehlers market. So both Colorado being in on it, both Colorado being a fallback plan for teams that don't get Ehlers.
A major difference, though. We all know that major, just in case people don't get confused. I know you're not confused, but to go get, like you said, Marty Party, you're gonna have to pay a price to get Ehlers. It's free, right? And that's the difference.
Yep.
You know?
Big time.
I think there's two portions of this conversation. One, we can walk through the steps of Nick Ehlers. Sure seems like the Avs are part of that conversation at this point, given that they haven't made any moves for forwards on the day. But another side of this that comes into play is the Avs probably want a defenseman, and there really aren't any high quality ones in free agency, right? There was Gavrikov. He signed in New York pretty early in the day, and the rest of the D class wasn't super high quality. And you saw a lot of it dry up very, very quickly. Pretty much all the D out there that aren't like unqualified QO type guys got snapped up, except for, I guess, Grzelcyk is the one that is still out there. But with a thin D class like that, if the Avs are looking to improve in a meaningful way on the defensive side, that's probably not going to come through free agency, is the point that I'm getting at. Whatever a trade might look like, that might be their path to success on the defense.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be, because right now you're looking at the guys that are still in free agency on the defense. Matt Grzelcyk, Brent Burns, Dmitry Orlov, Ryan Suter, David Savard, Alec Martinez, Zach Jones, Mark Del Gaizo, Jan Ruda. Okay, Savard retired. Great. That's one more name off the list. Calvin DeHaan, Jeff Petrie, Travis Hamonic, John Merrill, my guy. Anybody really jumping at any of these names yet? I guess Pierre-Olivier Joseph is down that list. Eric Johnson's on that list. Oliver Shillington, Jack Johnson.
Petrie's gone.
Old dudes and unqualified guys is what this list is.
Yeah, like washed guys and unqualified and unqualified guys. Yikes.
Yeah, it's not great out there.
Even if you are looking for Puckpedia needs to update their list if Jeff Petrie's also gone. But these are not guys that you're jumping up and down for. These are not difference makers for you. Now, you're only looking for a third pairing guy. In theory, you're only looking for a third pairing guy, but you would like to feel better about that third pairing. And the problem with getting some of these guys, a guy like Zach Jones, I like Zach Jones. I'm intrigued by Zach Jones. Very samey to Sam Malinsky. That's not going to be a hard pairing to play against. They're going to be good with the puck, but not hard to play against. So this is why I keep saying John Merrill's my guy. Boring. Steady. Reliable. Cheap. Good on defense.
It's an option that we'll see play out. And as much as I would love the Avs to do their things right now this second, I do expect this to probably be a slower free agency for them as pieces fall into place one way or another. But we'll get into that a little bit more. We do need to take our first break of the show here, so let's make sure we're hitting that before we do anything else. Yeah, I don't know if you want to call it the Ehlers sweepstakes or wherever, but let's not talk about the easy conversations. Look, if you are in the market for a mortgage, but you're not just a normal worker like me, I get my salary, I get my W-2. It's easy. If you have some more complicated stuff, like maybe you're a business owner, that's where Cake Mortgage comes into play. Traditional lenders love W-2 forms and things like that. It's very simple, very straightforward. But if you're a business owner or maybe a creative professional, contractor, tech entrepreneur, you have a bit of a different source of income. It can be difficult to set things up in the right way. By maximizing legitimate business deductions and expenses, business owners can reduce their taxable income, keep more money in their business, but that also means their tax returns show little income. And most lenders don't understand this type of complex income, so they get denied for home loans and refinancing. Cake Mortgage, on the other hand, can get business owners approved by validating your cash flow through bank statements, certified profit and loss statements, and business tax returns. So head to the link down in the description below to get started with Cake Mortgage. Cake Mortgage Corporation, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1734623, licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Terms and conditions apply. That way, you can get your mortgage as a business owner. There you go. Giant on screen. Go to cakehome.com or call 1-888-CAKE. And once you've got that set up, you also got to make sure you're smelling good, chilling, and vibing with life. And that's where Mando comes into play. Mando, men's deodorant brand that's focused on keeping every aspect of your body smelling fresh and clean. Yes, every aspect. Belly buttons, balls, butts, cracks, grundles, pits, whatever it is. Mando has you covered with their amazing scents like Bourbon Leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. They've got something for everybody. And of course, you can go check them out today. Highly recommend. You know, some days you sit on the couch all day and watch free agency and you get a little smelly. So you got to jump in with Mando to avoid that when you're done with the day and you got to go out to dinner. Mando has the starter pack, perfect for new customers. It comes with 4 products, including a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, and 2 products of your choice, whether that be mini body wash, deodorant wipes, or many of their other products. It all comes with free shipping, and you can get $5 off with the code DNVR for new customers. It's essentially 40% off your starter pack with that DNVR code over at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please let them know we sent you over there with that DNVR code. Helps us out a little bit. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence today from head to toe with Mando. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. So, look, the Avs do still have work to do. However that math adds up. And I think the first conversation we have to have here is we are operating under the assumption that the Avs are at least in the conversation for Nick Ehlers.
Yeah.
Let's say it works out. We get through a couple days. Ehlers ends up signing in Colorado. What's the next step for the Avalanche there?
Well, the next thing that you do is you find, and I'm sure they would have an idea of
plan in place. I'm cool.
Yeah, for what they want to do with Necas, because the idea of going after Ehlers, who's both older, less productive, and more injury prone than Martin Necas, while having the same postseason malaise throughout his career, you're talking. That's not the greatest sell of Nick Ehlers, those things, but if they sign Nick Ehlers for, you said what? Let's just say $8 million.
Sure.
Then Martin Necas is making more than is going to make more than $8 million on his next contract. So the Avs would be saving money long term on that guy. That's the point, right? And then you use Necas to as a trade piece to try and go find a younger defenseman, in prime defenseman, somebody that's already signed at a price that they're comfortable with, a team that's looking for wings. And you don't necessarily need a tip-top pairing defenseman because your top pairing is already there. You would obviously love that. You would love if you could trade Martin Necas for Hampus Lindholm or Thomas Chabot. That would be great. That would be a great, and those are just guys. This isn't me saying anything. Those are just guys.
The defenseman you like here.
Right. And the thing so that's the next plan. Like that would be your next step. And then after that you would decide, you would look at see where your team is, and then okay, whatever you've traded Necas for, a defenseman, maybe another player, maybe a pick, whatever. What how much money do you have left at that point? Because you've signed Ehlers and now you've traded away Necas $6.5 million for somebody else's money. We don't know who it is, so we don't know what that money looks like. Then that's when you start going out and you filling out your roster with the Mason Appleton, Yoel Kiviranta, Justin Brazeau types.
Yep.
So that would be the next step.
Yeah, it's well said. Well said. How about on the side note? How about Ryan McLeod, 4 times 5? Jeez, that's a lot of money.
Great deal. Great deal.
I know you like him, so.
Except for it's Buffalo, so it'll be a disaster class because it's Buffalo. So anyway.
Brazeau signed. Here you go.
Yeah, Brazeau did just sign in Pittsburgh. There's some deals still rolling in, obviously, but
come on, man.
I like them. I like them.
Let me ask you this, because as we were talking about this on the live show, this was a thing that I saw come up a few times. Is there a world where the Avs can get Ehlers and keep Necas, or is that just untenable?
I think that's the world where. Hold on, I have to have the number in front of me just to get an idea of where they're at. They are at 7.55. They would have to get Ehlers more at like 6 or 7 million, which 6 million seems comically low.
Yeah, even 7 feels low, honestly.
Yeah, well, and 7 million, that would give you $550,000 to fill out the rest of your roster. That's gonna be hard. So you would have to make more moves. You'd have to move out Ross Colton. Honestly, it would probably just be Ross Colton, because then you're going out and you're signing multiple of Anthony Beauvillier on like 1 year, $1 million deals. You're just like filling your roster, the bottom of your roster with those guys, John Merrill, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. It would be very difficult. If the Avs do end up with Ehlers, I just don't see how he and Necas both fit in the lineup.
Well, just look at roster spots. Just look at roster spots. So you got Landy and Natushkin, like on the wing, on that second line. Then you got Leckie and Necas. So you're going to sign Ehlers to play on your third line at that price?
I mean, imagine the plan would probably be Leckie drops down to the third line in that scenario, but
you know damn well he's not playing there. He's going to make his way up because it's just coach is going to put him there, right? So
I get it. It would be hard.
Got an issue. So now you're playing on the third line. Again, I go back to my burger ice, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you sign a guy, and then it's, the production's not there. I know, and then the guy's unhappy, and, that's the fit. Where do I, again, that's if there's no injuries, right? But still, sometimes there are no injuries, and that's why you got to look. And so that's why then the player's like, why would I sign there then? You know what I mean? I'm not signing there to go play on the third line. I'm going to get thrown tomatoes at me for my $8 million a year. They're going to be throwing tomatoes at me. The fans are going to want me to leave, or you know what I mean. So I'm just that's kind of where it is. Not even just numbers. It's question of fit. Like how do you keep both? I don't know.
Yeah, and the conversation around Ehlers and why he would be intriguing to the Avalanche is because stylistically he'd be a wonderful fit. He would be a wonderful the way that he plays with speed, his transition game, his rush offense, all of those things. He would be a fantastic fit in how the Avalanche like to play. But with Necas in tow, less of a fit.
Some sameness starts to crop up at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have 2 of these guys that disappear in the postseason? And then what? What's the plan? You're going to give Necas $10 million next year to extend? You're going to run this back? No, you would need to move Necas. It would make 0 sense to sign Nick Ehlers and not move Marty Necas. It would make 0 sense. The other question that I would have is, what does this tell Marty Necas? That you're like, this is your big plan? The cat's out of the bag, right? They could be all shadow games and sneaky. Oh, this is what we're going to do. But now the cat's going to be out of the bag. They tried with Nick Ehlers. If they don't sign him, then they have to turn around and have extension conversations with Necas, and Necas is going to be like, thank you, $11.5 million. And the Avs are going to be like, no, we're not doing that. Yep. We offered Mikko Rantanen 12, and he said no. We're not going to offer you 11.5. That's crazy. And it would be crazy. That would be a crazy number for Marty Necas. But you're going to lose leverage because he knows that you're trying to replace him now. Yeesh.
Yeah. It would be it would be a spot.
This is big, giant balls from the Avalanche front office to try and get this done. Dish. Because if it doesn't work out, you've got pieces. You still have to continue to build your roster, but also you're going to have a pissed off Marty Necas. That's not a good place to be.
True.
Exactly.
If it hits, the decisions are a lot easier to make. If you miss, you might have some tough decisions ahead. Put it to you that way. It becomes tough because the Avs are in the Central Division, right? So there's going to be 4 teams that do absolutely crazy everything they can to try and build a winner. Not necessarily just through free agency, but through the season, at the trade deadline, all those situations. What I will say is, though, looking at what happened today, there aren't very many teams in the Central so far that you can legitimately say made themselves better. At least teams that you expect to contend. Sure, San Jose at the bottom, whatever. Not too worried about that. But when you look at the Central, all Dallas really did today was bring back Radek Faksa.
And go over the cap.
And are over the cap as of today. I guess, St. Louis made a couple of moves. Did they really make themselves better? Up for debate. Utah, it probably made themselves better.
If you count the JJ Peterka thing, they're definitely better. Sure. For my money, they're definitely better.
So that are we really settling in on Utah as the team in the Central that made themselves better, and that's it?
Yeah, adding JJ Peterka it's a good move, but you lose Nick Bjugstad and you add Brandon Tanev. Okay.
You had Vanacek in the net, right? As a backup.
Yeah.
They lost Josh Doan, an up and rising guy. They lost Kesselring, right, for their D. Again, this is the team that they're gonna have to do it when it matters, right? It's been years, so you have to do it when it matters. So there's this the year. Yep. You would think so, because they have no choice, right? So at some point, it's funny to have 62 draft picks and great. But you got to win, right? That's how you get judged on. Not how many draft picks you got, but are you in the dance and are you winning rounds, right? That's what gives you longevity in this game, in the front office. So that's where they're at. Yeah, they probably got better. I agree with you. That's a fact, So I would have to give them that. On paper, they got better.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So Utah got a little better. Did Winnipeg?
No.
Did Dallas?
No.
So,
for the record, Colorado also hasn't, because their forward depth has kind of been blown apart and they don't have a third pairing defenseman. But that's kind of holding serve with the other top teams.
Right. I'm saying, yes, Colorado didn't really do anything today. But when you compare that to the rest of their direct competition, they're not in a rowboat out by themselves in the ocean here. There's a bunch of teams in the Central trying to figure it out and take that step into this next season of who's going to be the contenders. Well, I think we know who the contenders are for the most part. I don't expect that story to change very much in the Central, but who's going to fire the big salvos in free agency of making the next step in the arms race?
In the Central, you've got Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg, and Utah, I think, are the 4 best, right?
I would
Minnesota, I would put right with Utah. I think the top 3
continue being a wild card team. Sure. Yeah.
I think the top 3 have separated, and then I would have Minnesota, Utah, and St. Louis as like that next tier, and then Nashville and Chicago suck.
Fair enough. I don't think I would argue with that. So on that front, yeah, I don't think the Avs not doing a ton feels all that bad. And obviously if Ehlers happens, and it changes the way you feel about things, but
definitely. I think this also extends out to the rest of the Western Conference. LA has spent a bunch of money, and
outside of Vegas,
arguably, are they better? Oh, and even Vegas. Look, yeah, they have they got the money to do the Mitch Marner thing, but they had to give up Nick Waugh, which they can live with. He's like a third, fourth line center for them. I think fourth line center for them,
Yeah.
which he was way overqualified for, but he was also really good. But also, they lose Alex Pietrangelo, their top guy on the right side. And when you go through and you look at their defense, Shea Theodore's
thin.
great. Noah Hannafin is great. Braden McNabb is great. Those guys are all lefties. One of them is either going to have to move over, or they're going to have to play Zach Whitecloud at the top of their defense as on the right
he's
side.
not a
Like
top pairing guy, yeah.
Losing Pietrangelo really blows a big hole in that defense. So that's
Sure.
a step. Mitch Marner, Alex Pietrangelo, probably a step forward, but in terms of where they are now after the move is done, their center depth isn't as good as it was, which was fantastic. And they don't have a top pairing right-handed defenseman, a top pairing guy to play on the right side of their defense. And if they try and play Theodore and Hannafin together, that badly hurts their defensive depth. So you're still looking at the teams that are out west and saying, how much better is anybody getting?
Sure. I think that's fair. LA did stuff today. I don't know that it made them better, but they did a bunch of stuff. Edmonton is kind of in a cap bind. We saw them lose some of their depth pieces today. It's just it's been a tough market, especially on the defensive side. You're talking about Vegas missing those pieces. The contracts defensemen are getting in this free agency are aggressive. I'll say it that way. They're aggressive. We talked about the Lindgren deal, but even someone like a Nate Schmidt got over $3 million. Like, that's kind of the world we're living in now.
And a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
Who's that now?
Nate Schmidt.
Oh, no, Schmidt. Yeah, I thought you were saying somebody in chat was saying Keandre Miller got paid.
Yeah, Miller just signed 7.5 by 8 with Carolina.
Oof. Yikes.
Yeah, right? That's crazy.
I'm telling you, the D market especially,
that's
the prices are
huge commitment.
So
yeah, this is the big resetting of the defense year going on. I mean, we knew something was up when Nick Hague got $5.5 million. It was like the warning shot of like, oh,
watch out.
Yeah.
That's the guy with the tornado meme of here it comes. Okay. No one. We'll move on.
No.
It's fine. Someone out there knows what meme I'm talking about. But all this to say, the West feels like it's in a weird spot where are there still good teams in the West? Absolutely. Did anyone really win the offseason in day one of free agency? It doesn't feel like it, at least not in the West. So
yeah,
work to do yet, maybe still. As I have work to do, we got to pay a few more bills here. Let's do that, and then we'll continue the conversation. As, of course, you know them. You love them out here. Are they our number one flooring sponsor? Of course they're our number one flooring sponsor. It's Empire Today. Jump in with carpet, with tile, with hardwood. I'm sure they'll even do crazy weird floors if that's what you like. Go get with EmpireToday.com/DNVR today. You can get up to $350 off your new floors. They're the flooring experts. You can go there. You can get the type of product you want. They only carry the best quality. They've got what you need and nothing else. None of the junk that other stores carry. You can get with them online. If you don't want to go in store, you can measure out your room and see what the floor looks like in it. You can have them come out to you. You can get a free in-home estimate because some things are just better at home. And as I mentioned, DNVR listeners can get a $350 discount when they use promo code DNVR or head over to EmpireToday.com/DNVR. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com/DNVR for full details. Or, of course, you can always call 1-800-588-2300. Empire. Once you got your floors figured out, you know what? You've earned some chicken fingers. go over there. Go head over to Raising Cane's, or you can order at raisingcanes.com or on the Cane's mobile app, so you can order on the way and it's ready to go when you get there. Satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap if you're heading out on your next summer road trip. Raising Cane's, of course, every chicken finger is hand battered and cooked to order. Every crinkle cut fry is crispy and perfectly salted. Every piece of Texas toast is buttered to perfection. And we all know the reason to go to Cane's is that delicious sauce. The Cane's sauce is made in a restaurant every single day, ready to be dipped in. Are you hungry yet? I hope so. I'm hungry. I want to go get some chicken fingers now. Get your order today at Cane's and keep the road trip going. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I'm going to ask a question here. And I think it might be fair to say it's hard to decipher just yet. But do you think any teams made a big mistake today?
Seattle. LA.
I think LA for sure I would agree with.
Just doing the math here, they spent, I don't mind the Corey Perry deal. That's fine. It's only 1 year. Yoel Armia, 2 years, 2.5. I don't have a big problem there. It's fine. Pretty reliable. But they are at, by quick count, 12.35 million or so on the combination of Cody Ceci, Brian Dumoulin, and Joel Edmondson. I know Edmondson wasn't signed today, but that's their commitment for next year for those three guys. That's half your defense, those three guys. Yep. And those guys are all third pairing defenders. So.
And you paid
what's up?
$4.5 million for Ceci. And $4 million for Dumoulin, and you gave Ceci 4 years, and then Dumoulin 3. The Ceci thing is, Ken Holland, number one. If he goes to a team and he signs Cody Ceci to a big deal, that's what he does.
Well, we talked about though. Where was that Gravikov? Oh, $7 million. That's weird. LA should have given him that. It sounded like he answered that question. I was just reading. He said players have choices when it comes to UFA. So a guy wanted to go to New York, and that's probably what it was. He just wanted to go in the East to New York. So that's it. I mean, they probably offered him 7.5, and he's like, no, I'm going to be a Ranger. So I want to live in New York City.
I know Gavrikov they probably weren't going to be able to sign, but just to hammer this home, would you rather spend $7 million on Gavrikov or $7 million on Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin?
Well, they spent $8.5 million on those two, so
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's even worse than that.
Give me Gavrikov, but also yes, Eric's point is well taken. The player has a say in this, and when the player decides he wants to go somewhere, well, bye. You got to do something, and this was a bad class. This just seemed like the year not to do this. But when you're LA,
certainly with the defense,
Kopitar's 37, Doughty is 35. Are you just going to say, well, it's a bad year for defensemen. I guess we'll try again next year. What do you do? So they're trying something. For my money, this is a more expensive version of what Dallas did last year with Lyubushkin and Dumba. And now they're paying that price. So now they're going to get to next year. And they're going to go, hey, wow, this predictably didn't win us a Stanley Cup. This was kind of a problem. Now what are we going to do with these contracts? These guys aren't very good. And other teams are going to be like, oh, do I want to strap an anchor to my salary cap for you?
No,
thank you. I'm actually feeling pretty good. No, thank you. I mean, I guess you could always call Columbus and see what's up. But no, it's just kind of a strange decision from them, honestly. Just a strange couple of decisions.
When they wake up tomorrow and realize they made a terrible mistake, San Jose has got to get to the cap floor still. So that's always an option. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, well, and similarly, their first round nemesis, Edmonton gives away Arvidsson. Yep. And I'm like, okay, there were rumors that they wanted Brock Besser. Are they going to try and bring back Perry? Are they going to try and bring back Connor Brown?
Gone.
They lose They lose out on all those. None of those guys. So now they've got $4.5 million of cap space, and what are they doing with it? John Gibson's been traded. Jake Allen's off the market. Where are they going?
I don't know. There was a rumor that they were interested in Elvis, maybe, but
And this is the same. Oh God, that'd be fun. This is the same kind of thing that we're talking about in Denver right now. Okay, well they opened up cap space. They've got a little over $7 million of cap space. But what's the plan with it? Until they actually spend some of that money?
Patience.
Yep.
patience isn't fun.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Grizzly.
Could be. That could be what the Avs decided to do. We just don't know yet. It's a spot. Okay. Let's take a look at the forward grouping a little bit, because regardless of the Ehlers thing, pretty likely that the Avs need at least one bottom six forward, whether that's a third liner. It seems like that's the spot that needs to be filled. Do we have guys on the list? Is there anyone you would hone in on as a depth forward for the Avs that you would really like to see them take a run at?
Yeah.
Well, you can go like Beauvillier type, or you can go up and comer type Peltier. You know what I mean? Like, I think one will be cheaper than the other. I'm giving examples, not necessarily the players themselves, but and that's why I'd like to go towards the under $1 million guy, Peltier. You know what I mean? Because of those reasons. You know what I mean? Because it's got to be a roster spot. Somebody will be there anyway. So, and we all know that Eagles-wise, none of them are ready, give and take, right? Well, we've talked about that before. So, let them develop. You know what I mean? The Prishpashov and all that the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why for me it'd be Peltier.
For me, two guys who didn't get qualifying offers that I would want, I'm disappointed aren't Avs already, are Nikolaj Kovalenko and Jacob Peltier. Those are two guys that I would want to bring to Denver. They're young. Kovalenko's 25, Peltier's 24. If they fit, they work, great. You could keep them and you can build with them. And
they're cheap in the immediate.
Yeah, they're cheap in the exactly. Like that's and I think both of them would be solid third liners for you. Those are the guys that I would be looking at right away. And you and I have long loved Arthur Kaliev. We had this conversation already, so
we did.
I'm good.
He's not coming.
Yeah, not worried about that.
But he can score. Absolutely.
I mean, guys, if they don't have, if their markets don't develop and they're willing to take $1 million or less deals, Mason Appleton and Yoel Kiviranta, Michael Carcone, Anthony Beauvillier, those are all guys that I would have conversations about. I wonder defensively, I wonder about Dmitry Orlov. Evan keeps saying that he's heard he's going back to the KHL. I trust Evan when it comes to the KHL especially. So that's, that's I'm going to believe him, especially with the moves that Carolina has made today. That sure looks like a team that is operating like Dmitry Orlov's not coming back.
Yeah.
But I wonder about that guy. So until we know exactly what he's up to, that's going to be an eye I'm kind of keeping, a guy that I'm kind of keeping an eye on.
Well, and this is the reality of where the Avs are with the cap. Moving beyond whatever happens with Ehlers and Necas and all of that, the fringes of their lineup, the edges of their lineup, the Avs have to find some cost efficiency, right? At a certain point, you have to be able to get guys on the cheap. We talked about why, maybe the Avs could have made a different decision than committing to Parker Kelly, because you can find guys in your bottom six that will. Yoel Kiviranta is a perfect example. Who's the Avs' next Kiviranta that can come in and outperform the contract that you put him on?
Peltier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So different, though.
Be the guy. I do.
You want to talk about opposite guys, though? Peltier and Kiviranta. Kiviranta, no puck skill, but is going to give you a full effort on defense. Peltier, pretty much the opposite.
Yeah. Can give you some flair with the puck, but who knows everywhere else?
The common thread between them, though, the common thread is the effort. They play hard.
Yeah,
I do.
True.
I like Kivy. You guys know that. I make fun of Kivy, but I like Kivy. So, but I would like new blood, fresh blood. Peltier to come in there, like a little spunk, smile, get in there. I do believe there's something there. And again, I'm trusting my buddy Snowy here on this one. You know what I mean? But I just think I think there's something there. I really do.
As we settle into, can we really call it? I mean, silly season started the other day, right? It didn't make it to free agency. Silly season started early, but as we continue through silly season, will the Avs continue to do the pattern we've seen over the last couple of years? Reserve $1 million, $1.5 million for a guy that might still be floating around in August? Are we looking at timelines that long? Okay.
They should. Yeah. They should absolutely keep some extra money around. There's no need at the moment. There's no need for them to go out and spend right up to the cap limit. They can hang out for the first time in years. They're not worrying about LTIR. They have LOCs, LTIR if they need to, if they want to. Yeah, they can mess around with some of that. But at this point, they should plan that LOC's LTIR money gets spent like on an extra depth guy, and it's just kind of hanging around just in case. Like they don't need to mess around and go all the way up to the cap line right now. There's just no need for it.
Yeah, I would agree. I just trying to give angles for why it makes sense for the Avs to continue to be patient as much as everyone wants them to do stuff and we all want to freak out and go crazy. It might not be the most pertinent thing to do if you're the Colorado Avalanche. So we've seen them have success. We've also seen them miss on some of those, like Tatar. Didn't work out, but it's not you shouldn't be surprised if the Avs keep some space and are interested in some guys that end up going later in the offseason.
Frankly, when we were talking about Nick Ehlers and the log jam and everything, I mean, Kiviranta is exactly the kind of guy that, like, hey, the Avs might be like, hey, we love you, we want to bring you back, but until we have all of this money settled, we aren't comfortable committing to it. And he could just be like, cool, I'll wait.
Call me when you got the number and we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. You let me know, and then I've got some backup options. He's not going to be top of anybody's like must-have list right now. He's a classic like wave 2 free agency guy.
Yep.
So, like I think we're going to see a whole rash of signings whenever the Nick Ehlers thing.
Yeah, that domino will set off a chain reaction for sure. I am confident in that much. But
what was the Keandre Miller sign and trade? What was the trade?
Yeah, I didn't see what they got back for him.
Yeah, we still don't know.
7.5 or whatever.
Yeah, rumor had it that it was going to be close to an offer sheet price, so probably a first and a third.
What is it, 7.5 or 8.5? What is it?
Yeah, 7.5.
7.5 for 8 years.
8 years. Oof.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. I like Keandre Miller, and even I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot. So,
responsibilities with contracts like that. So,
all right, new plan. Avs content team. Are you listening? End of the year, you walk Cale Makar into a room, and there's just a giant like posterity check up on an easel, right? And you just give him a marker. And he just writes down a number on that check, and you just go, okay.
Yeah. So basically what they did with his first contract after the ELC?
Yeah, but this time you make a whole thing out of it, all right?
Turn it into a game?
Yeah. Oof. Boy, I tell you.
Chat brings up an interesting question. Which contract is worse, Provorov or Keandre Miller?
I mean, does it Columbus had to spend so much money anyway? Like,
Nah.
I don't know. Ask again.
All right, so we agree. All bad.
Yeah. One of them will work out
Sick.
better than the other, maybe. I don't know which one.
Yeah. Both bad. Both feel like bad money today.
Yeah. I mean, there really weren't that many good money like, if you look at the guys out there that I wanted for a real number for Colorado, I would say Jonathan Drouin, who signed $4 million for 2 years with the Island. Nick Perbix, who signed just under $3 million for 2 years.
Such a good deal.
And other than, I guess, the Bugstad deal was what, $175 for 2 years? That would have been fine.
But also a good deal.
There aren't a whole lot more than that I would have really, really loved for the Avs to do.
Yeah, I would have. I understand why, but I would have liked the move that they made for Arvidsson, a 5th-round pick for him. I like, and then Mikey Eyssimont, 1.45 for 2 years in Boston. I really like Mikey Eyssimont, so and it sure looks like this is the going rate for getting multiple years on these depth guys all of a sudden. So those are deals that I would have been pretty comfortable with. Boston also had arguably the worst deal of the day with this Tanner Jeannot deal.
Oh my God. Jeannot deal is bad.
It was so bad.
You thought 2.5 for 6 for Miles Wood was bad? How about Tanner Jeannot for 3.4?
I don't even like the Yoki Hadiu deal that they got, the 3x3.
Yeah.
What does he do for you? What is he good at? Like he's a good skater.
I like Foo's question there. It's a legit question. I've never looked at it that way till I just read it.
Of the 4 majors the NHL players get paid the least, you don't generally hear overpay in most of the other leagues as you do in the NHL. Why is that? That's because most of the other leagues don't have a hard salary cap in the way the NHL does. So overpaying a guy just means it costs you more money. It's somewhat untrue in the NFL. NFL does have a hard cap, but so much of that money is not guaranteed that you just cut a guy and it frees up a ton of space. So,
yep. When you sign a contract in the NHL, that's your contract, and the mechanisms for getting out of it are pretty damning.
Yeah,
it's a punitive system if you make a contract mistake. So when you hear overpay, it's usually like, hey, this is a mistake that you're going to pay for down the road. And then the NBA has the world's most complicated salary cap. I have no idea. And I think all baseball players are overpaid except for the ones in the minors.
Just give Shohei's deferred money to all the minor leaguers. All right.
Straight up.
But yeah, that's even the NBA, which the cost of overpaying guys essentially just means you pay a luxury tax, which, yes, you have to pay more money, but you don't get caught with these contracts and not flexibility, or lack of flexibility, I should say. You can continue to make moves in these leagues because in theory, you could be the Dodgers and spend $2 billion on your roster and nobody can stop you if that's what you want to do.
Yep. For sure.
So
true.
Which I do think it'll be an interesting adjustment that however this salary cap works in the playoffs starting not this year, but the year after next. Another loophole closed. What will the NHL figure out to avoid that? We'll see. Yeah, I don't know that we have a ton else to say. I know we have like 8-10 minutes left in the show, but the Avs just haven't done most of their business yet. So
yeah,
it's still wait and see season, I suppose. And as AJ said, win or lose, the next thing that you expect to trigger reactions is the Ehlers deal. So
yeah,
knowing our luck, he will sign in the middle of dev camp on Thursday or something, and we'll have to scramble family sports.
That's what it sounded like today. I mean, that's what it sounded like, right? The representation said, "Nah, we don't expect anything today." God, I hate when people do that. Bugs me.
You really don't like this. What is the deal?
No, it just bugs me. It's not that complicated. You've had a few months to think about it. You know, it's not complicated.
That's a fair point, and we all know tampering happens. It's not like the market opened
Yeah.
at noon, and this was the first time that Ehlers had heard from the representatives of organizations.
So there's a Canadian team like he's been, like let's say Toronto. Then there's an American team like Colorado, and then there's like, okay, where do you fit? I mean, does it really take like 52 days or
All right,
to
look.
think about it?
It takes a long time when you're bidding $1 at a time. Okay, he's got to call up Toronto, and they say $8 million and $1, and then he calls up the Avs, and they say $8 million and $2.
That's what they're doing right now. It started at $6 million this morning, and they're just
dollar
working their
by
way
dollar.
up. Yep. Look, $1 million takes a long time to count too. It takes a long, especially when you're calling all these other teams. It just takes time, guys.
It's tough out here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this more broader picture. We've seen NHL free agency going this way for a long time now, where the hype cycle hypes up all of these guys, and then June 29th, June 30th, a bunch of dudes on the hype cycle end up staying in their buildings and staying with their teams, getting signed, or a trade gets made before they reach free agency and they sign with the new team. Will we ever see the true like madness that we used to see in free agency, where you ring the bell to start the day and just a pure chaos flood of dozens of deals come in?
No.
It's over. R.I.P.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's bad. I think it's
Fair
bad
enough.
for teams. I think it's bad for players. It's fun for like people like us who pop on YouTube and react to action as it happens, right? Like I think that's great, but I think it's bad for the people actually involved in the process.
Sure. E, how do you feel about it?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I was just more reading about on the right side there with Ehlers in Denmark and why wouldn't Winnipeg keep them. So I got sidetracked mentally. I wasn't listening to
ask
AJ's
Winnipeg
answer.
how well they keep players. They struggle with that.
No, but I mean it's a fair question, right? AJ should be the best to answer that because I've been there.
It's not. The Jets wanted to keep Ehlers. He was one of their arguably their most efficient scorer the last couple of years. They just wouldn't play him in a bigger role. And why that was a mystery to every person on earth. I don't know what the deal was with the Jets coaching staff, multiple coaching staffs that would not play Ehlers more than they did. He's an excellent 5v5 player. I don't understand why they weren't feeding him more minutes, especially because let's be real here, their second line wasn't like out there crushing it. So the Jets wanted to, and I think that the lack of playing time was one of the reasons that Ehlers is probably happy to move on from Winnipeg and just say, "Oh, I think I'm good. I'll explore my options."
It goes back to the same thing with Gavrikov, right? Players make choices on free agency day too. It's not just teams.
Yeah, true. That's fair. But I just got caught up in reading.
You're good. The question I asked, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, E. Free agency. Do you miss the days of free agency where everything would happen all at once right as free agency started, as opposed to the modern system we've seen, especially over the last couple of years, where so many of these deals get done before free agency actually happens?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be naive that things aren't done before, right? I know they talk about tampering this year, and they keep bringing it up, and again, you would have to be a dummy to get caught. First of all, like really, but there's other ways to do it, and like, all right, and I'm not saying you should. I'm saying it's against the rules. But you do have some inclinations on, where people are going to be and where they want to go to, and are they going to reside with that team? But I think as a team, you just plan it, and it is exciting. And believe it or not, coaches, they play fantasy roster. I mean, they really do. They think it's the greatest. That's why I always felt you should keep coaches away in those days, because they're going to want the biggest. I mean, oh, yes, I want Gretzky there and I want Crosby. And, you know what I mean? Like, and then they go nuts. And that's what coaches, they're nuts. So I think you try to keep coaches away on this one. You kind of talk with them. You've done the research before. What type of player are you looking for? What are we going to be looking for here? Where are we going to play this guy if we go after him? And then you keep them away. You lock the key and you make sure they don't come in. You know what I mean? Because they're annoying and they come in and when they have their napkins with their lineups, and this is what I think should be working. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens, but I think it's exciting for teams because you do have a plan, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't. And then as a player, it is exciting too because if you decide to go Ehlers, the market, then you have a plan too, and then it wasn't today that you decided that I'll take my time. I think he's already had said that in his mind the last few weeks that he was going to take his time and see and, analyze. And again, I don't know if he's married or not. I have no idea. I don't know him. So, but you know what I mean? And it's like, I'll look into what's best for me and which I'm not like that, me personally, you know what I mean? So I'd be more like, all right, let's go, let's do it, But some guys want to analyze it, and that's okay. You've had that right. You've earned that right, and it still doesn't make it. I mean, it still makes it frustrating. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, of course.
Everyone's waiting. It's like, come on, man, let's go.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like the Avs are walking a tightrope right now.
Nope.
They're trying to cross this bridge of signing one of the big names in free agency, and if that works out, that's a great story, and you can have that conversation. But even then, there's still work to do. You sign that guy, and you have to make the next steps of filling out your roster and making your salary cap work. If you're late to the show, go listen earlier. We talked about that a little bit. If they miss on Ehlers, then they have to scramble to their backup plans and fill out their roster with pieces that make sense. There's a non-zero chance they fall off too. They could fall off the tightrope, and then the Avs end up with a rough off season. But we don't have the.
I mean, at the moment, they need an entire forward line, just in terms of number of players, not in role. But they need an entire They need 3 forwards and another defenseman.
Yep,
that's still quite a bit of work to do.
Yeah, they are far from done, and that could look a lot of different ways depending on how this goes. So,
yeah.
Hopefully tonight you go to sleep dreaming of Ehlers and you wake up with a present under the tree. I guess that's the game plan for the Avs.
How much time do we have?
I mean, we can go longer if you want to talk about something.
It's mostly the one thing that we haven't talked about in the show is Nikolaj Ehlers better than Marty Necas?
I would offshoot without diving into it. I would say no. I would say Necas is the better forward. Why it makes sense is that you mentioned it earlier. One, Ehlers long-term becomes cheaper because Necas is going to get more than whatever they end up paying Ehlers this offseason. And two, if you're in that room and you're moving Necas or Colton or whoever, it gives you more flexibility on the defensive side. Like we said, the defensive free agent market, what's left, there are some okay dudes, but there's no big swings that you can take. If you get Ehlers and you're suddenly trading Marty Necas allows you to take a big swing on a possible defenseman. Who that ends up being, we'll see. That's still 3 steps away, so we're not there yet. But
well, and you can understand why the Avs would be making this bet. That they feel like, hey, we might think that Necas is better, but we think Ehlers can bring. We think that Ehlers can bring us 90% of what Necas does, but Necas can be used as a trade piece to get the kind of defender that we think would be a difference maker on our blue line. Otherwise, we don't have the assets to get a difference maker on our blue line.
Right.
So that would be like you can understand why that would be their approach to this. Ehlers is older. He's far more injury prone. Both of them have bad track records in the playoffs.
But then Marty, it all comes down. Somebody's like, "Oh, let's just," it's a fair question. They're saying, "Oh, just have him one more year." But the problem with the player, if you let him go to free agency, then he's probably walking. So
yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's the be. And Marty, if he's told them that maybe it is true he doesn't want to stay here, and he's like, "Well, I'll sign an 8-year deal, but it's going to be $12 million." And then the Avs are like, well, I'm not giving you $12 million. I'm going to give you $9 million. And then they're like, no, I'm not. And again, now you have no choice. Then Ehlers becomes a reality. Do I think Ehlers is better than Necas? No. I think Necas is better than Ehlers. But maybe they leave you no choice. And then you're using Necas to go get that D. Who knows?
It depends on how you're chopping it, too. Is Ehlers better defensively than Necas? Yes. Necas is really bad defensively.
Ehlers isn't great shakes either.
But he's passable.
Well, Tompkins, somebody was asking, he's a depth goalie in Edmonton there. So it's just like minor league goalie. And I'm going to go like this because I'm going right to the airport direction of Denver.
We are wrapping up for the day. So is what it is. If the Ehlers thing happens, we'll jump on for an emergency pod chat. So you know where to find us if it happens.
It'll happen while Eric is in the air and we can't do anything about it.
You guys
me and AJ will pop on and be like, cool. Yeah. Woo.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're wrapping up for today. We are back tomorrow. Pod times playing a little fast and loose because Avs Dev Camp is going on. We're going to be live at the practice arena. By the way, if you're going to Dev Camp, come say hi. We're just going to be sitting there watching Avs prospects do stuff. So say hello.
We'll come back to studio, right? And then we'll do a show from studio. Yeah.
We'll still have a show. It might be more like 1:30 Mountain-ish, though, timing-wise. But we will be live with you. That's it. We appreciate y'all. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.